Hello, hello. I think I'm live. Let me just double check it. It's always an interesting thing with Facebook, so let me see. Okay, I am live. Yay! I see Susan. Thank you, Susan. Hi, Barbara. Yay! So I had a panic moment because I went live and it didn't do it. Can you imagine? And I thought, oh no, not again. I'm having too many computer issues. So there's Janet from Georgia, Barbara, welcome from Tennessee, Mary from good old California. You're a local. Hey, my friend Janet, she's my local. Hi, Susan from Texas, Cindy from Mississippi. Good to see you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I am so excited to be here. Anne from New England. Susan from South Carolina, welcome. Got a couple of Susans in the house. Yay! I'm so glad you guys are all here. Are you guys excited to be here? Our weather is good today, not as hot as it's been, which is really, really nice. Hi, Mary Lee. Mary Lee's taking some classes from me, so I know Mary Lee. Anyway, so it's been really nice. It's nice and cool today. Cooler, I should say, not cool, cooler. So my friends, I'm excited because we are doing the dream panel. Now I did the dream panel years ago. I think I did it in 2019. I was looking. Hi Marie from Ohio, and it was so much fun to do. It's addicting. Once you start, it is addicting. Hey Leanie, welcome. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to do. It could be a little intimidating. And so I'm hoping that today's live will kind of get you through that fear if you haven't started it already, or if you're kind of scared of starting and you haven't started. I hope that today, after today, you guys can start. It's really, you just got to look at it as one petal at a time, right? Instead of like one step at a time, one petal at a time. And if you can do it that way, you got this. And so, so a couple of things. I'm going to first just kind of go over what you need. I did put a PDF document in the group yesterday, so I hope you guys had a chance to take a look at it, and take a look at it, and then kind of see what you need and how to kind of set up your machine. And basically, my machine is set up for my sewing bobbin case. Now, that's a little bit different from embroidery, right? Even though we are doing embroidery, I did do a sewing bobbin case because I want my tensions, my stitch, to be balanced from the top and in the bobbin. I want them to look the same, top and bobbin. Hi, Jody. Hi, Janet. So that's the only reason, and that's the main reason why I used my sewing bobbin case, which is the green one versus the purple. Now, is that necessary? Well, it depends on what you want to do, what kind of look you like. And my very first one, the back was a hot mess, truth be told. But I'm like, oh, who cares? No one's going to look at the back. But then as I started teaching it, I'm like, wait a minute, I really got to kind of look at the back, because as a quilter, and I'm not a quilter, but as a quilter, you look at the front, you look at the back, you know how we do things, right? And so I thought, well, that's not going to work. And so my first one had, when it goes from section to section, it cuts the thread for you and it does a little knot. So it was full of it on the back side. My thread was showing. It was not a pretty sight from the back. The front was beautiful. It's the one right behind me. It's beautiful. It turned out really nice, and it's hanging in my store. And so I like the front, but was not happy with the back. Hi, Lucy. Hi, Becky. So for those of you, let me just back up a little bit. I know I kind of jumped right into the panel here, but let me just back up a little bit. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Salima, and I do own a store here in California. It's called AAA Sewing and Fabric. My parents started the business way back when, in 1976. So they started it a long time ago, and then so I've kind of been in the business since I was born, right? Because not since I was born, I guess I should say, since 76. I would come to work on the weekends. I kind of knew what was going on, but I really got involved with the business about 25 years ago or so, 30 years ago. So I've been in the business for quite a bit. I love it. I always say this is my happy place. My family knows this is my happy place. So yeah, it's great. I will answer your question in just a second, Marie, so hang tight, I will get there. So that's my background. And then several years ago, I partnered with Baby Lock to create some USBs. I had this thing in my head that, IQ Designer at that time was not very utilized. People didn't know too much about it. People weren't using it a lot. And I thought, you know what, if I'm having trouble, a lot of dealers, maybe they have staffing issues, or they may not know how to use it, or the customers may not know how to use it. So I thought, well, what if I created tutorials to teach the dealers so that the dealers can teach the consumers? And so that's how I kind of started this process. And so I created USBs to teach IQ Designer, and that's how my thing kind of started. So I have 7 volumes total with Baby Lock, and you can find them on my website, on the AAA Sewing website. I do have them there. And then from there, then the pandemic hit, and then everything became virtual, and so I started fiddling with virtual classes, and I'm happy to say that how many years later, I love my virtual classes. I do them all the time. I do live classes. I've just started doing some recorded classes, and I love it. I love it. That, I think, is my calling. Teaching is my calling. I love it. With my classes, I do give PDF instructions, step-by-step instructions, videos, embroidery files. So it's a lot of fun. So that's just a little bit about me. So aside from running a business, the sewing store, I do these classes because that's just my passion. I love it. So it keeps me very, very busy. But you know what? Busy is good, right? Busy is good. Okay, so enough about all that. Back to our panel here. So to answer, where was it? Marie's question, I have my panel on the top, I have my batting, and I have my backing fabric. It's like a sandwich, just like a quilt. We're going to quilt through all 3 layers, okay? Hi, Evie, welcome. Oh, thanks, Jody. Jody's taking some classes for me, so thank you. So that's how, okay, so we started with the bobbin case. We're using a sewing bobbin case. I did wind a bobbin, so you want to wind a couple of bobbins ahead of time. If you're like me, I usually use pre-wound bobbins, so to wind a bobbin, it's a hassle for me. Not that it's hard, it's just I don't like to do it. And so when I wind bobbins, I wind 3 or 4 at a time. So wind some bobbins, keep them ready, and I basically just match my backing fabric. The color that I use, so right now, and I'll show it to you in just a minute here, the color that I'm using is a blue. It has a multicolored background. It's like a multicolor print, so I'm using a blue, and it'll kind of just blend in. I don't want it to stand out too much. I don't want it to be white, like a pre-wound. So I did wind my bobbins. Hi, Rekka, good to see you. And so I did do that. So I wound a bobbin. I've changed my bobbin case to the sewing bobbin case. Now I'm going to I've got a couple of different machines here that we have. We've got, of course, the Solaris and Luminaire customers. And then we have the Stellaire, Meridian, and Altair. I consider that one grouping. Then we have the Destiny and the Dream. So 3 different groupings, all similar but different, if that makes any kind of sense. So if you have the Destiny or Dream, Solaris, Luminaire, you are going to use a fabric scan. So those machines have the ability to scan your fabric. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. If you have the Stellaire, Altair, Meridian, you are going to use your largest hoop. On all machines, you're going to use the largest hoop possible, okay? But you're going to use the largest hoop, and you are going to use the app. So it is called, let me just flip over to my apps here real quick. Okay, so on the Baby Lock, it's IQ Intuition Positioning. Say that fast 5 times, right? And then on the Brother, it's My Design Snap. That's the app you're going to use. You're going to open the app, and you're going to basically take a picture of your project in the hoop. Okay, and I have one hooped, so I'm going to show that to you, but I'm actually, in my studio, I have this luminaire, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, let's see where else. Let's see before I kind of go. Anybody have any questions so far? I'm looking, no questions so far. Okay, so let me go ahead and now, ideally, you want to start from the center of this flower and work your way out. So I'm going to kind of move out of the way here. You'll have to kind of excuse this camera here, but this is my center here, and I'm going to show it to you up close and personal on the actual sample that we're going to do today. And you can actually do all of this one fill, or you can break them up into sections. Choice is yours, okay? So ideally you start from the center and work your way out, right? That's how you would normally start any type of quilting. When you are quilting, you start in the center, work your way out. Now, on the sample that I'm going to show you in just a second here, let me go and turn the overhead. I was a little intimidated with the center. Not sure why, but it can be. So I'm going to bring this one over. I have it hooped for the Stellar Altair Meridian folks, because I want to show them the hoop. Whoops, as I knocked my camera behind me. Okay, so let's see here. As you can tell, it's a big quilt, and so I'm just trying to get it so it lays flat on this table so you guys can see it. So this is the center that I'm talking about. You want to start here. Now you can see that you can divvy up sections. Like I can pick this section of this petal, or I can pick this section of this petal, and you're going to kind of pick different sections and fill them. Or if you find it all easy just to do it in one section, you will just outline this whole center and plop a fill right in the center. Choice is yours. Now, as you can see on this one, because I was intimidated with this and I didn't know how to handle this, I started with the perimeter. I started with other flowers. And you can do that as well. You know, there's no quilt police. No one's going to tell you that you did it wrong, right? As long as you get it done and it's beautiful hanging on your wall, that's what the ultimate result that you want, right? Now, for today's class, I did a scan on this, and the color is so light, it doesn't really show up on the camera for you guys to see properly. So when I actually quilt today, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these outside petals, and I'm going to quilt one of these outside petals. The color is just more vibrant and it'll show it better for you guys. I want you guys to be able to really see how I define my sections. Okay? But if you want to do it, the way you should do it is center and then kind of move out. Now, for my fabric, I have my panel, I've got my batting, and I've got my backing fabric. And the backing fabric is right side out. And you can see this is kind of like a funky all over fabric. So I just chose to quilt it in blue. Okay. Now, if you are doing the, if you are using the app and are going to digitize the panel using the app, you need to use the hoop that has these little markers on it. It's got them on the top and on the bottom. And then when you use your app, so when you grab, let me grab my phone here. When you use the app, you are going to, there's two sections here. We're not doing embroidery. We actually want to go to my design center. So you're going to pick this very first one, and it shows a picture of the hoop. And you just hold your phone over your hoop, and it's going to take a picture of this. Once it takes a picture of this, it'll send it directly. It'll tell you, send to machine, and you say okay. The design will go to your machine, and then you will be in the same spot as if we were to scan it in directly on the machine. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And what I'm going to do right now for today's class is I am going to unhoop this hoop, but I'm going to use the hoop for my luminaire because I have a luminaire that I'm going to be stitching on today. Now, you can use the largest hoop for the luminaire or the Solaris on all of the machines. You want to use your largest hoop because you can embroider a couple of petals depending on how you hoop it. Like if I hooped it like this, I can do 2 petals at a time. Okay? If I hoop it like this, I can hoop, let me raise this up. I can embroider 2 petals at a time. So it'll be better for you to use the largest hoop, so that way you have less hoopings to do. So these markers are for the stellaire, they are for the meridian and the altair. If you have a Solaris or Luminaire, your hoop does not have the markers. The markers are only to be used with the app. And if you have the Luminaire and Solaris, you're going to use a fabric scan method, and the Destiny, you're going to use a fabric scan method, so you don't need these markers. You're just going to use the regular hoop. Now, because we are going to use a regular hoop that doesn't have these markers, when you use the Solaris, Luminaire, Destiny, or Dream, you can actually use the magnetic hoop. And so that is what I'm going to do. And I prefer to use the magnetic hoop for a couple of reasons. So let me just get rid of this hoop here and move this on another table. So the reason I prefer to use the magnetic hoop is I'm just going to lay this fabric on top of my hoop and snap it in place. When I move from section to section, it just is easier. It is just easier to re-hoop. So yes, Mary, you have Luminaire and Destiny, so you don't need that. Your hoop will not have those markers. You're going to be doing the method that I'm going to be doing in class, which is to scan the fabric. Okay? All right. So let me go ahead and change cameras. I already have my bottom of my hoop already attached to my hoop. That's not necessary. You can actually go to your cutting table or a table and hoop it properly and then attach it to the machine. Or you can do what I'm doing is, and did I just knock the camera? You can do what I'm doing is I'm just going to grab my fabric and I am going to slide it under. I am going to slide it, and then depending on which area I'm going to embroider. So I decided that I am going to do a petal that you are going to be able to see on camera, and I want to make sure that you guys can see this on camera. So let me, I think it was this petal showed up really well. I'm just going to turn my fabric around. Okay. So I'm kind of focusing on this petal right here, this section right here. And I'll do a couple of petals so you guys can really see it and get a good feel of this. But I'm just trying to lay this out here. And like I said, if you prefer to hoop this on a table, by all means do so. I'm just doing it right on the machine. So the reason I do it on the machine also is, let me go ahead and change my camera angle a little bit. See if I can do this here. I'm going to, so I have this part of my hoop. So what happens is when you're re-hooping, you can actually lay this hoop above the bed of your, above the top of your machine, and then you can position your fabric, and then when you are done, you just bring it back down, and then you can snap it in place. And I'll show you that when I get ready to re-hoop it. That'll make more sense when I'm getting ready to re-hoop it. So for right now, I'm going to just slide this in, and you can see how easy it was to slide it in, right? Versus using the regular hoop where you'd have to actually tighten the screw, and it is thick because you have your top panel, batting, and backing. All right, so anybody have any questions so far? So far, so good? Okay. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, you can use a mouse to digitize this. You can use a stylus to digitize this. I am so used to a mouse now because of all my virtual classes that I teach. I don't like my hand on the screen, and so I always use a mouse. But the funny thing is when I do this type of panel and I'm actually on the machine screen, I also like the Brother mouse, and I use this little fat piece right here, the little fat rubber end. So I'm going to show you both ways. So you can do this big stylus if you want, or you can just do a mouse. And I just have a really inexpensive Logitech, $10 mouse. Has to be wired, but it works great. All right, so I need to change my position for my last camera real quick, and then I'll just fine tune it so that you guys can see the screen. All right, so I have opened my Design Center or IQ Designer, so everybody should be able to see my screen. And what we're gonna do is yeah, Lucy, the middle is really funky looking. And so I would just take little sections by sections. And the funny thing is once, and I'll show you too, maybe what I'll do is at the end of class, I'll take the one that's completed. I'll put that on the overhead so you guys can really see it. Once you just kind of separate the little sections by yourself, once there's stitches on top of it, you can't see that background fabric. So no one's going to know that, oh, did you do it right? Did you really go where you're supposed to go? Because it just looks like pretty stitches. So I don't worry about it too much. So now what we're going to do is we have our machine ready to go, and what I like to do is I like to make sure that I have nothing on my screen, meaning I don't have any hoop lines on my screen. So I always go to my settings page, and I do bring the largest hoop possible on the screen. Even when I'm doing normal digitizing for something else, I always like an empty screen. The less things on my screen, it's just not as distracting, right? And so that's what I've done. I've gone ahead to the settings page, made sure I have the largest hoop possible. And then I'm going to come up here to this fabric scan icon. This little icon up here. And I'm going to click on it. And when I click on it, you have a couple of options. Now, because we are taking a picture of what's in our hoop, we are going to use image scan. Okay, we are going to use image scan. So I'm going to click on image scan, and I'm going to click on the word scan. And then I'll change camera so you guys can see that. As soon as you hit the word scan, you'll get a little pop-up message, and you just say okay. And then here we go, it's going to do a little scan. The larger the hoop, it does take a minute or so to scan, so you just have to kind of be patient, but it's so worth it. I may have a thread box behind me that's going to get in my way. I just realized that. I was rearranging my threads the other day, and I grabbed a thread box. I thought, oh, I'm just going to start getting organized, but now it might get in my way. Let's see. Oh, I just missed it by a little bit. Now it's going to hit it. Sorry about my hand there. I was just trying to move my box. So if you guys hear a big thump, everything just probably fell over, right? Okay. Okay, so a couple of things. I've got a couple of questions. Let me see if I can answer a couple of questions here. So Anne, you have the cream panel. Okay, so what machine do you have? Do you have the Solaris or Luminaire? Because you can, once you get to the embroidery side, you can project your stitches to double check your positioning. That would be one option. It is very hard to see, so let me go ahead. Oh, you've got the Solaris. Okay, so yeah, what I would do, and I'll show you my screen in just a second here. Susan, I do not have a Destiny, unfortunately. So I will not be able to show the screen, but I will tell you that you do not have this icon here, but you do have it here at the top. You do have something that says image scan at the very top, and that's what you're going to go for. You're going to click on that image scan. Okay. The other thing, Anne, maybe can you turn off the light on your machine? I know that doesn't make a difference when you actually scan it, but that might help you, or turn the light off in the room. Maybe that might help a little bit. Okay, so let's see if there's any more questions. Okay, so you can see on my screen it is very, very, very light. I can't see it either. So I'm gonna go up here to the top. Now on my machine it's at the top. If you have Destiny, Dream, Meridian, Stellaire, it's at the bottom. But the icon is the same. And you're gonna click on the one that looks like the little darker leaf. And I'm going to just make it darker. And you can see how it makes it darker. Now here's the thing. If I go all the way to the furthest spot here, with this arrow being the furthest spot, I want you guys to take a look at something. When I go and draw on my screen, I'm actually drawing right now, nothing shows up. Nothing shows up on the screen. Okay? When I go and click on this leaf with the lighter background, just even if I click on it once, look at that. Because I drew on my screen. So my friends, let me undo all that because we don't need those lines. You do not want to go all the way to the darkest spot here. You want to be one in. You can go to the darkest spot if you want to double check your leaf or your petal, but when you are digitizing, you want to come back in. So you can go to the darkest spot, take a look at it to make sure you can see the outline. But then when you're ready to digitize, you want to come back in one tick, one click, one notch. You want to come back in. Okay? All right, so let's see here. So it looks like on my petal here, it goes all the way around and it comes in a little bit, comes out and goes around like this. Okay? So that's just a little tricky part of this petal. It's just a little different, and that's okay. All the petals are, none of the petals are going to be perfect, right? And I'll do one that's a little bit more simple later. Now, the other thing also is if you don't want to have it come in and come out like I do, I can see it here. You can also just make it from here and come all the way in. Who's going to know? You're going to have stitches on top. No one is going to know. Okay? I promise. All right, so now what we want to do is we have our design on our screen. We're going to go ahead and select the fills. What kind of fills do we want? So depending on your model, again, that will dictate how many options you have, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this Fill Properties box. Now, the difference between this top four and the bottom four. So when you see a line underneath these options here, so let me kind of zoom in so you guys can, we'll just look at some icons for a minute here. When you look at these lines underneath, those mean that it has to do with a line. It is an outline, okay? When you see a box behind it, it has to do with a fill. So when we talk about Fill Properties box, it's this piece of paper with the box behind it. It has to do with the fill. When we talk about Line Property box, it's the one at the top with the line underneath. Okay? All right, so a couple more questions. The reason I'm answering the questions as they come up, because once I bypass the screen, I may not be able to find the questions again. So I'm kind of just looking at the questions as well. Janet, the video is going to be available. It's on Facebook here, so it's in this group. and you can watch it as many times as you like, and you can pause it and do it together with the video as well. Can you use an embroidery file fill? So yes and no. So you can, well, you have to, it'll be a different step to do that. So let's go ahead and just do the ones that are built into the machine here first, or today, and then maybe at another time I can show you how to do a different fill. I just want to keep it simple just to kind of get the basics of the panel, and then we can, because Baby Lock does have these design suites that have those fills, and you would be able to do and use those as well. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and grab our fill properties box, which is this guy right here, piece of paper with the box behind it. And then you have three options. You've got your regular fill. They call it a weave fill. Then you have your stipple, and you have your decorative or your fancy fills. So when I click on the decorative or fancy fills, you get a pop-up box and you see the word select. So you're going to click on the word select, and you can see here, depending on your machine, depending on your upgrade, how many fills you have. Okay. So I have the Luminaire 2, but it's been upgraded. And so I have all 48 fills. Okay. So the first step would be just to pick a fill. So let's find a fill that we like. Anybody have any preferences? You know, sometimes it's hard to pick a fill because they're all so pretty. Sometimes if you want to just kind of go in order, you can do that as well. You know, maybe I'll just let's pick the roses just for something different, right? Not the first one. I'll pick the roses and I'll say, okay. And I know everybody has the roses on their machine. So I'm going to pick that and I'll say, okay. So you see the roses here. The color doesn't matter. I'm just going to leave it at red. It really doesn't matter. And I'm going to say, okay. So now you can see here, this paintbrush is selected. So that's what we're going to do, is we are going to use that paintbrush to outline the petal. Okay, it's already selected. Now, like I said before, you can use a mouse or you can use this little stylus here, the one that comes with the machine. And you want to also zoom in as well. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if I zoom in to 200%, and then I'm just going to kind of let me back up a little bit here, this camera. So you can see at the top, I'm trying to make sure I get the top as well. I've got the little pan hand here. Now if you're on the Destiny, Dream, Altair, Meridian, you have a little preview window here up at the right hand corner. So you would slide that red box to show your petal, okay, versus the pan, the little hand here. So I'm going to go ahead and just slide over, and I'm going to start somewhere in here. Now you can see as I go and zoom in, it's hard to see the edge of that flower petal. So you may want to kind of maybe back it up a little bit with the opacity. If that doesn't work, go back to 100% just so you could kind of see the edge. Okay. Another little trick would be is just to do a rough outline of the flower as you see the whole thing here, and then go back in and really fine tune it. So maybe that's the way I'll do it for class, just so you can see that. So I'm going to do it two ways. I'm going to use the mouse, and then I'm going to use the little stylus from the machine. So what you want to do is you come on the screen and you touch the machine, and you are just going all the way around. Now my hand is going to be in the way because of the stylus, but you can see I'm just sliding myself all the way around until I connect again. Okay, I'm going to undo that, and now I'm going to do it with the stylus, with the mouse, you guys can see. So I'm going to go, I'll just start from here, and I'm just going to go all the way around. Now you can stop. If your hand gets tired, you need a little break, you can stop. And then you continue, and you can see with the mouse, it's a little it's harder to get a perfect line because I'm not on the screen itself. So you can undo that last little bit. Okay, that's how you would do it. I'm going to undo that because I do prefer the this little guy. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we've surrounded the petal, and now I'm going to click on this bucket or cup icon, and I'm going to fill inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in and kind of pan and take a look to make sure that if it in fact is filled into the flower. I can see here I'm not. Can you guys see that right here? I'm not filled in. So this is where you would take your paintbrush again, and then you would just color. It's so therapeutic, my friends. I don't know what it is about these panels. I wish it didn't take so long. I would probably do more of them, but it does take a minute because there's so many petals, right? Now on purpose, I'm going to come out a little bit and say, oh, you know what? I went beyond my petal. What do I do? So I'm going to kind of pan down here and take a look here. What do I do here? You would just click on the eraser icon, and you can just come in here and erase whatever you need to erase. And then come back in with the paintbrush and fill it in again. And then I'm going to pan around the whole flower. So here I have a little bit of right here that I should fill in. And you notice if you overlap a little bit, it doesn't matter. It knows that there's already stitches there. It's not going to do a double stitch, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so Susan, I want you to double check one thing. All right, I think the internet is back. It was buffering a bit. I apologize for that. I saw it as well. So I didn't say anything. I just kind of stopped because I could see it was buffering. I don't want you guys to miss anything. So I didn't say anything. So you didn't miss anything, I promise. But what I was answering Susan's question. So Susan, so you basically do not want to be at the very end. You want to be one in, and that's probably why you're not seeing that line. Now you can see I drew something here, so I'm just going to click on the undo at the bottom. The eraser icon is right here. Here's the eraser icon. Somebody asked about the eraser. Evie, here's the eraser right here. Okay, so now I'm going to pan to my design, and I can see this section here. Now I want you guys, and hopefully you guys can, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Can you guys see that it's a little bit darker here than it is here? That means that it is going on it's on a different petal. So I'm just going to take my eraser and just kind of erase. Now if you find this eraser icon to be too big, when you click on the eraser, just take the size down maybe to a 10. All right, and then you can erase whatever you need to erase. If you think you've gone too far, undo it. Undo again. Okay, So whatever you need to erase, you can just come in here and erase it if you need to. I'm going to make my tip a little bit smaller because I'm going to come in here and I'm going to erase this little section here. I went too far up. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on the eraser and I'm going to, and I do like to work with the square option, so I'm going to change it to a square, and I'm going to come over here and then just kind of slide my mouse until I erase this bottom section. Okay, if you've gone too far, again, you can just do an undo. Let me slide over here and let me erase a little bit here. All right, so let's keep panning through our design so it looks good so far. Okay, here's a little white section here. Okay, that means it didn't fill here. So I'm going to click on my paintbrush. And fill there. And then I'm going to pan. Here, I think I've gone out way too far. Make my eraser a little bit bigger, because I think it should come like right like so. I'm just kind of curving it up a little bit so it looks nice and even. And then I'll pan up again. Looks good. All right, what's going on over here? Here you can see some white spaces, so I did not fill. So I'm going to come in here. I'm extending beyond, so I'm going to erase that. You can spend hours fine-tuning this, you guys. You really can. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to 100% and kind of look at my design. What do you guys think? It looks good, right? Okay, give me a thumbs up so I know that you guys are still there, still with me. Let me know that you guys are there. All right, Kathy is there. She says it's beautiful. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I just want to make sure that you guys are all still here. All right, Evie's there. Okay, perfect. So the next thing we're going to do, my friends, thanks Janet. The next thing we're going to do, once you've gone around a petal, you click on the word next. And this is where you can really have some fun. Okay? You can really have some fun here. You can change the size of the fill. You can change the angle of the fill. If you have the Solaris Luminaire, you can also do the random shift and position offset. So you can do a lot with each fill. So sometimes, depending on my flower petals, I will make this bigger. Just because it's a bigger petal, I'll go ahead and increase my size a little bit. Whoops. You know, so I'll increase the size of that fill and it'll process, and then let's see what that looks like. So you can see it made it a little bit bigger. Okay. You can change the angle, which is called direction. So if you wanted to, some fills it makes a difference, some fills it doesn't. But you play with it and then you audition it and you see if you like it. That's the beauty of it. You can see if you like it. Like on this one, I don't think it really makes a difference. Okay, but let's go ahead and do a couple of things. Now on my machine, so Solaris Luminaire, the outline is off. It's a default. The outline is off. And that's what you want. You want your outline to be off. Now I've seen some dream panels where they actually do an outline stitch around each petal. Okay, if that's the case and you want to do a straight stitch outline, then you can go ahead and do so. Keep it on and make an outline. I chose not to do it. I think it looks better just the fill and no outline. Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Anne. I appreciate it. So that choice is going to be yours. I'm going to leave mine off. Now, if you have the Destiny or Dream machines, I believe, from my memory, that the outline is on by default. Okay, so I did write on page 2 of your handout, I did write down that you want to make sure your outline is off. So just double check that on your machine. Whatever machine you have, you want to make sure that if you want it off, that it is off, but if you want it on, then by all means. Okay, now Solaris Luminaire people, you have 2 other options here. So let me kind of show them to you. So you have these 2 right here. So the first one, which has the number 0, I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm sorry I keep going back and forth on the screen. I'm trying to capture everything and trying to be zoomed in as well so that you guys can see everything. Maybe I should just back up a little bit like that. So here is the random shift. So what is random shift? So random shift just shifts your design. It kind of skews your design one way or the other. Okay. So the number here, you can go plus, so it'll go up to, I believe it's 6. Yeah, 6. So 6 is your highest number you can go. And on types, the highest letter you can go is the letter C. So you go A, B, or C, and that's it. So for example, if I do 6C and I say okay, let it process, and you'll see my flower should skew quite a bit. Do you guys see that? Do you like that? I don't know. I think it's a little bit too skewed, right? But you can play with it so that it's not as skewed. So you can go back and you can say, well, you know what, let's just do it, maybe do a 3 shift and keep it at a C, and then say okay. So it skewed it a little bit, but not too much. Okay, so you can do that. You can do and play with your fills this way. You can go and leave it at a 3. Let's go back. Let's go to a B and see what that looks like. It's skewed. I can see it kind of skewed down here. Let's go to an A and see what that looks like. So not as much shifting. So that's what random shift does. So we're going to keep it just simple. Keep it at 0, just a default. That's the beauty of it. You can go back to the default and everything is the way it was. Now the one below that is called position offset. So what position offset does is if you had let's say you had a circle and you wanted a certain part of this design to be focused in the center of the circle, you can move your fill left to right, top to bottom. So will it make a difference on this? Probably not, but let's try it. I'm just going to kind of play with some numbers here and let's see what it does. so you can't really see any difference. It would shift your design. So this flower, for example, I can move it down if I shift it down. Let me see if I can move it. Let me try that. Let me go down, sorry, or let me go, which way am I going here? Let's try. I'm just going to exaggerate it and see what happens. I'm looking at this flower right here, and let's see if that moves that flower. It kind of moved it. But so that's what that does. It will shift your design top to bottom, left to right. So for this exercise, I'm going to leave that as default as well. Am I not going the right way? Oh. I love the fact that when you are back at default, you have that big black box behind it. That's your default setting. I love that. Okay, so I left everything at default. I'm going to leave it the way it is. The last option on this machine is a new option. It's your thickness. So you can have it do a thicker stitch or a single stitch or thinner stitch, I guess you call it. I'm just going to leave it at the default, but you can play with that as well. Okay, so the last three things that I talked about are just going to be on your Luminaire and Solaris models. You're going to click on the word set when you're done, and you're going to click OK. Now, if you have Stellaire, Meridian, Altair, Destiny, Dream, you have a couple of other steps in between. You have a preview window, and then you'll hit OK, and then you'll hit set, and then OK. So same thing, you're basically going to follow whatever is in the lower right-hand corner to take it all the way to the embroidery side. Okay, so I'm going to click on the word set, and I'm going to click on the word OK, and you'll see my petal right here. And then I will click on the word embroidery. So it's about an 8-minute embroidery. And do you guys want to see it stitch out? And then I can do another petal. It's your call. Another thing we can do on this particular machine is you have a projector. And then on the Destiny Dream, you have the scanning capability again. If you have the Meridian, Stellaire, Altair, you can again take a picture. I mean, you already have a picture because you took it from before. So you can actually fine tune and make sure that it is exactly where you want it to be. So you take a picture of the design. So for example, here, let me go ahead and do the projector just because it's different for this machine. Now you know the projector is this small little box, and that is what's being projected. Okay? But all you need to do to see where your design is move your box to whatever sections you want to move it to. Okay? So, let's say I want to look at this section of the design, like so. And now let me go ahead and change cameras. And let me see if I can really zoom in so you guys can see that. So do you see how my stitch is being projected on my fabric? So I can really make sure and fine tune to make sure it's where I want it to be. If I move that rectangular box on the screen, it just moves my projector so I can really look at my design. And I'm just looking at the design on my fabric and what it looks like on the petal. You're just kind of basically auditioning. Okay? Sometimes you'll see the stitch kind of sticks outside the petal, even though we may have made it inside the petal. So sometimes by changing the size of your fill, we'll fix that, or changing the angle of your fill will fix that. Sometimes it's just a couple of ticks over. Is it going to really bother me? Not really. But if you are really particular, it may bother you. And then you can change it. And to change it, you would just go ahead and go back. Basically, if you wanted to change it at this stage, you'd be too late. So you may want to save it on the IQ side or my design center side. But I'm usually not that picky. Once I get it here, I'm pretty okay with it. So I have a couple of people want me to do stitch outs, but So I can't do another petal because I don't have, on my hoop, you can see here, I don't have the, let me just pan out a little bit. I can't see the entire hoop here, and even the hoop up, the flower at the top, I don't see the whole flower, so I'm gonna have to rehoop. So let me go ahead and stitch this one out, and then I will rehoop. So it'll give me an opportunity to show you how to rehoop it, and then we'll do another petal if that's okay. So what I'm gonna do is get ready to stitch this out, but there's a couple of things I need to do first. So I'm gonna come down here to the bottom of my screen here, and where you see this little scissors icon, you're gonna click on that, and you are going to turn off your end color trim and your jump stitch trim. Now what that does is when you are stitching, it will not do that little tie off and cut your thread and give you a little short tail on the back. Oh, Evie, you're already stitching? Perfect, I love it. So having these off really make a difference because it does not have that little tail on the back side. Now the downside to all of that is you're going to have to, at the very end of this whole project, turn it to the back side and clip all your jump stitches. Okay? But I rather do that than to have those little knots in the back of my quilt, my fabric, with those little stitches. Okay? That's how my first one was done. And the back, like I said, it's not very pretty. So these are off, and I'm going to say okay. And the next thing I'm going to do, one more step before we can stitch out, we're going to go to the needle plus, needle minus icon. And I am going to start with the very first stitch. So what I generally do, you can see on my screen here, it's 0 here. So I'm going to go to the needle plus 1. It'll take it to the very first stitch of the design. The very first stitch of the design. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to bring up my bobbin thread, just like the old-fashioned days when we had that. Remember when we used to have like 4x4 hoops? I don't know if you guys remember all that. We used to have to call up our, or we would bring up our bobbin thread. And so, I don't even see my top thread. Let me go ahead and just thread it through the needle real quick. All right, so here's my top thread. So I'm just going to pull it so it's a little bit of a tail here. And now I'm going to use my needle down, needle up, needle down button on my machine. So I am right here on my machine. This guy right here, the needle down button, I'm going to go ahead and touch that. So I'm holding my thread so it's nice and taut, needle down, needle up, and my bobbin thread just came up to the top. I'm going to pull my bobbin thread, and now I have 2 threads here, top and bottom. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold these threads gently. I'm going to press my go button, and it's going to go ahead and start stitching. After it does a few stitches, I will manually stop the machine. Remember, we used to do that way back when on our machines, and I'm just going to clip those threads. Start my machine, and off I go. As far as colors, thread colors, I generally match the fabric maybe a shade or 2 darker. So that way my stitches show up. So as you can see here, I have like a light yellow, and then I have a green for the center, etc., etc. So I do change my top thread that way. Ooh, what speed do I sew on? Okay, that's a good question. So back in the day, I was at pedal to the metal. I would put my machine at the highest speed possible, and I would just go. I don't know if it's me getting older or what the deal is in my head. I don't like to sew at that high speed anymore, especially with embroidery. When I'm doing regular sewing, I'm a pretty fast sewer because I just want to get the project done. I have too many projects to do, too many things to do, so I'm always pedal to the metal for regular sewing. For embroidery though, depending on what I'm doing. So if I'm doing a lot of in the hoop stuff and I have to lay fabric and turn fabric and do all that, I hover at about 500 stitches per minute. Something like this, I'm at 700 stitches per minute. So that's what my machine is set on, 700 stitches per minute. So Janice is asking about washing the panel. So, you know, there's two schools of thought on that one as well. I generally don't wash any of my things, so that's so I'm not the right person to ask about that. And maybe somebody else can comment. I don't, especially something like this. I'm not gonna. It's not a blanket. It's gonna be a wall hanging. So, you know, it's not going to get dirty or anything like that. So I did not wash this, but I generally don't wash my things because I like the feel of a new fabric, I don't like it washed and worn out, but that's just me. Barbara, you have the Baby Lock fills, yes. So that is a great question, and you can use that. Maybe at the end of class I'll just show you where to go to find it. I don't know if I have any fills on my machine from that. I'd have to walk and look for one of my design suites, or maybe I can do a separate little class for that. Let's see how we do with time and how the other fill takes, how long that one will take. Maybe I should have picked a smaller pedal, huh? But that's okay, we're halfway there. It gives us a chance to talk. Carol, you hover over 500 too, right? Yeah, 500 is a good number. 5 to 700 is my speed. Janice, yes, if you're going to be putting it on a quilted jacket, I would probably wash it. Absolutely. Mary, absolutely, it's available. It's right here on Facebook, so it's going to be in the group, and it will be available. What I will do is I can pin it to the featured section so that you guys can find it easier. So after class, I'll go and pin it so it'll be in the featured section of this group, so you guys can go back and refer to it. And I think what I'll do is the pedal below that, this one right here, I'm going to show you how I re-hoop it and move on to this pedal. And we can fill it. I won't stitch it out because you guys know how these machines stitch. But that way you'll at least be able to see that process complete. Oh, Janet, you haven't bought your panel yet. Ooh, there's a lot of different color variations out there. I have about 3 or 4 on my website, but there are more. Some colors have been discontinued, and some are still there. They also made a Christmas one too, one year, poinsettia. That one was pretty. The only thing with that is you do all that work and you can only put it up in your house for that limited time, right? All right, I have about a minute to go. So actually next Friday I also go live in this group. So maybe next Friday I can actually walk you through how to do a fill from the Baby Lock design suites. That would be fun. So when I did my original one, they didn't have all these fancy fills in the design suite. So I just was doing what was on my machine, which was enough. There was a lot on there, right? By the time you change angles and by the time you do all that, you can have many different looks, which is nice. So do you guys see that long tail? It just put a long tail there because remember I turned off my jump stitches, so I'm gonna have to go and cut, and that's okay. Yeah, so the store is open July 5th, so I will be at work, so I will be doing a Facebook Live. We are open Friday and Saturday. So I will do a live and maybe I can do the same panel and just do a design suite. That's what I'll do. That'll be perfect. That'll actually give us an opportunity to actually see it in action rather than me talking about it. It's always better to see it in action, I feel. I have one dream panel that I have that I really want to do it for my house actually. But you know, when you do things, I do things for the store samples, my classes, things for my house are always the last on my list, right? Because I never have time. I always think one day I'm just going to do it. Okay, so the design suite. So the design suite, Mary, are these fills. Okay, let me get back to that question on the design suite. Since my machine stopped, let's continue this, and then I'll talk about that when the machine is embroidering or something. So you can see here, I do have a lot of jump stitches. When I say a lot, I say 4. So I'm going to go ahead and I need to cut the thread, and you can cut it while it's on the machine. You can take it off the machine, whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to quickly just clip it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and digitize this petal right here. I think that's what I'll do. I won't stitch it out, but I'll at least digitize it so you guys can see another petal in action. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to change my camera angle. So you're going to see, not sure what you're going to see behind my machine, but it'll probably be a mess. I've got threads and stuff, but it's a sewing room, right? / studio. It is what it is. So here's my hoop. I'm going to lift this hoop. So here's the advantage of a magnetic hoop, my friends. But you don't need one. So don't feel like I'm telling you that you have to have one. If you have a regular hoop, that's okay. But I'm just letting you know this is easier because you just take this hoop, you lift it on your machine, you let it just kind of sit there, and then you slide your fabric. So I'm going to slide my fabric, right? And then I'm going to put it back down. And I just want to make sure that everything is nice and taut. Because this is the one, whoops, you can't see that. This is the one I'm going to do next. So do you see how easy it was to go from one petal to the other petal? Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to, I'm just going to cut this thread because I don't want it to be that long when it does its scan, is we are going to go back out of my screen here. So let me go ahead and change my camera and go back to the screen. And I am going to say okay. I don't need to save anything. There's nothing to save on here. We embroidered it. We are done. You go home and you say, okay. You go back to My Design Center. Oops, sorry. Sorry. I was trying to get the screen a little bit darker. Okay, you go to My Design Center, and then you go back over here to the image scan. And you go ahead and scan your image again. Trying to figure out why my screen is so light. Give me a second here. There we go. And you click on Image Scan, and you click on the word Scan. So at this time, if you had a, if you're using the app, if you are using the app, you would go ahead and remove your project from your machine, take it back over to your table, and take a picture of your hoop. You already rehooped it. Take a picture, send the design over. So just to answer the question about Design Suite, just real quick, the Design Suites are additional fills and additional stitch motifs that you can use in IQ Designer or My Design Center. It's actually a Baby Lock product, but it does work on both machines. So there are just additional fills and stitches. And they're all kind of themed together. There's a kids one, there's a geometric, etc., etc. There's a seasonal one. Okay, I would like to see Baby Lock add a checklist in IQ when you're editing an image before you... I know, right? Well, you guys know there's a new top of the line coming out, so keep your fingers crossed. Maybe, you know, maybe they'll have something like that. Who knows? Oh, the coffee sign. Let me go and grab it and show it to you. Hang on one second. I'm just going to reach over. So for those of you who know me, coffee is my best friend. So this was actually, I got this from the computer, from just Google, and it was a saying, it was an outline, and I took it over to IQ Designer or My Design Center and then converted it to stitches and stitched it out. But the saying is, coffee's my best friend. Okay, so I've gone ahead and let's show the screen of the machine again. And here is my pedal. So again, I'm going to go up to the very top here on the opacity icon. I'm going to make it dark, but remember, I'm not going to go all the way. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way. And then I'm going to go to my fancy fills. I'm going to go to the word, not to the word, but to the decorative or fancy fills icon and the word select. And now I'll pick a different fill. So let's pick the one below that. Let's just try that first for fun. You can keep the color the same. It doesn't matter, right? We're just filling the section. And I'll just say okay. And then my paintbrush is already selected, so I'm going to go in here and start digitizing it. And so here I go. Sorry if my hand is in my way or in your way. I'm just more comfortable using this big guy. So I went all the way around, and then I clicked on this bucket and then click inside. And you're probably wondering, why did I pick this fill? I'm going to show you how I skew it, and it actually looks really good on the screen. I won't stitch it out, but I'll show it to you. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to 400%, and I'm going to, again, pan around. I can see this section here. So click on the paintbrush, and then just come in here and paint. And then pan. Now look at this. So what do you think happened here? I went over, right? See how it's darker? That means you've gone over to the next petal. So I'm going to click on the eraser icon. I will change it back to a size 10, a square, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to erase. Okay, easy. Let's pan again. Looks good, looks good. It's a little bit here. Let's see if I can grab it. If not, I'm gonna let it go. Oh, look what happened here. It's darker, or it's going on the other embroidery, so I definitely am going to erase that. I don't want it to overlap my other embroidery. Whoops, my mouse slipped. Sometimes you just need that steady hand, so no drinking wine and doing this, folks. Just kidding. Maybe that will help you. Who knows? It's like me and my coffee. Anybody have any questions as how I'm filling this and how I'm just kind of editing the design as I'm going around? Thanks, Carol. I appreciate that. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the word next. And I'm going to show you a couple of just how the skewing thing works, because I think that's really cool. So I think I'm going to dim my background so you can really see the stitches more so. So it's nice that you can actually do that on this screen. And so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to leave the angle the way it is, but I'm going to do my skewing. And I'm just going to pick like a random shift. And look at that. Isn't that cute? So you can really play with those fills and get a completely different look. So that's what that looks like. So that's why I picked that fill, because I wanted you guys to see that this random shift thing is really cool. Let's go to 6 and see what happens. I'm just curious. Look at that. It's a little wild, but you can do it. You have options. Okay, so if you use the pencil, let's answer that question. So let's go back here. If you use the pencil, so what would happen is, let's pretend that this is the one that I'm going to fill, okay? If I use the pencil, I would go around, and I'm drawing now, right? Obviously, I'm not doing a good job of it right now. But I can go all the way around. I'm going to pretend that it ends like right here. Let's just pretend this is my petal, okay? You can use the pencil, but you need to fill it. So you still have to go to the fill properties, and you can click on the bucket and fill inside. Oops, I leaked. So there must be a hole someplace. Oh, I see it right here. Hang on 1 second, right there, where I started. Okay, so you can do it this way. So you fill that section in, right? But what's going to happen when I click on the word next, let me just show you one thing. You're going to have an outline. So if you want an outline, that's one way of doing it. Now what you can do is you can use the arrows It might take a minute here until you get the fill. I'm looking for the outline up here. So you have to keep on going. Oh, there it goes. There's that. So you can change that to a double run. So if you click on that and you change it to a double run, and you click OK. So if you want an outline, that is a way of doing it. Absolutely. Another thing you can do is you can, if you don't want the outline, if you click on, hang on one second, I'm trying to get my camera. Click on return and click on no sew. Click on no sew and then touch the outline. And then if I click on next, watch what happens. You've got the fill without the outline. But it's just one more step. Oh yeah, there you go. Carol, you asked about no sew. Exactly. You can do it that way. But it just is one more step. And to me, it's more funner to paint on the machine. I think that paintbrush is so cool because you're just painting. It becomes addictive for me. And it's easier to use that brush to go around a petal than that straight line, I feel. But everybody's a little different, so whatever you feel comfortable doing, the method is still the same. Or the end result will still be the same. How you get there is how you get there. So that's what your design would look like. All right, let me look at my notes here and make sure I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Anybody have any questions? One more thing I wanted to just show you is if, for example, you're on this screen here, and let me just back up my camera. If I click on fabric scan or I click on the projector, and let's say I want to move my design. Let's say I don't, let's say I want to move my design over, right? I've looked at my design, I need to move it. So let's say I'm like looking down here someplace and I want to move my design. Then what you can do is you can go to the layout, go to move, and you can nudge your design 1 or 2 ticks up or down. Okay, so you can do that. You can also, now on this one it won't work because I have this one here, but if you only have one petal at a time, you could even go to edit and size and then just shrink it down a hair if you need to. Okay, if you need to make sure it fills in that petal. I won't do it a lot, maybe 1 or 2 ticks. That's about all you should be able, all you should need to do. But you can do that as well. Okay, anybody have any questions? I'm going to turn the camera over. So I hope you guys liked my class. This was just a lot of fun. I love digitizing on IQ Designer, my design center. It's just one of the, like I said, it's my happy place. That's what I like to do. But thank you guys for tuning in and all your questions. They were great questions. So I hope you guys don't feel as scared to just go for it. I know, Mary, there's a lot of fills. So the best, and there's a lot of petals. So that's what I like to do. I just kind of go in a sequence. That, you know, there's so many petals, so many fills. Pick one of each and keep on going. You know what I mean? Because if you spend too much time trying to think of which fill for which petal, you won't get it done. Let's see here. Okay, perfect. I'm glad you guys enjoy this. Now, somebody asked earlier about classes. So if you guys are interested, I do teach classes on a regular basis. So I teach virtually. Everything is virtual. And if you go to my website, and I will type it in here. Let me get, let's see if I can type it in. Okay, so there's my website. And if you go there, I have a list of classes. I'm starting a monthly club 4.0 in July. So that's going to start in a couple of weeks. So that's something that you can jump in on if you're interested. I do have some recorded classes that I've started doing. So if you want to do a recorded session, it's like an on-demand. Once it's posted, then you can just access that recording. All of my classes do come with step-by-step instructions. So I gave you the PDF for this particular one. So there are some images, there are step-by-steps. So that's how my handouts are. They're usually a lot longer. Those of you who are in my watching today and I've taken my classes know my handouts range anywhere from 17, 18 pages. I mean, they're long because I really go in detail. So if you guys are interested, check out my website. I'd love to have you guys in one of my classes. It'll be fun to see you. I do them via Zoom, so we do interact with each other. If it's a live class, you can ask questions in real time, and we all work on the projects together. So we're all clicking together. We're all going to the next screen together. So it's like a step by step. So it's almost like I'm with you, but I'm not with you. Okay, let's see here. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Rekha. Rekha, your question about the fill, I didn't forget. I will answer that question in a minute. Lorraine, the PDF is right there. I posted it yesterday, so just check Facebook. It's right there on a post from yesterday. I did it last night, actually, so it should be there. And what I want to do is let me do it so that you guys don't get dizzy. Let me just change cameras for just a second. Let me take the one that's hanging off the wall here. I want to show you the fill. Okay, so Rekha asked a question earlier about what type of fill I recommend in the center. So let me change to my overhead and I want you guys to see this. So I did a number of different fills. So some fills will look better because when you make them small, you can kind of see the fills. If it's like a really big flower, or it's kind of hard sometimes to see. So you want a fill that you can actually, like, look at these, you can't really tell what they are. So they're okay, they're not bad, but look at this one, you can see it's a fill. Look at this, you can actually see the fill stitches. Or this is that little, reminds me of like a Halloween design. Even this one shows up. So I would just audition different fills to make sure that they would show up on these small sections. You're very welcome, Diane. Thank you. Thanks, Patty. Have you ever tried lightly using an air erase marker to prepare? Oh, you know what, Susan, that could work. So what Susan just suggested or is asking is you can actually draw a line on your fabric of the perimeter of the petal. So when you do a fabric scan, so you know what, that actually would really help the gal who asked, who has a beige color panel and you can't hardly see the lines. That would be a great way to do that. So thank you, Susan. Yes, you can use a air eraser. You know what I would use are the Frixion, because you can just iron it off and it just disappears. I feel like those air ones sometimes come back. I don't know why, but if you use a Frixion pen, you just draw around it, and then you would see the perimeter, and then you could fill inside, especially for like the beige fabric. So if you can't really see your petals, that would be a great alternative. So Susan, thank you for saying that. That's perfect. I'm just going to kind of like show it to you up close and personal, but this is what this one looks like. And this was my first attempt at it, and it turned out really, really nice. But it's the machine. I really didn't do anything. Look how pretty. So I went from the purples, and then I came down here to the pinks. So anyway, so I had a lot of fun with that. And I went all the way to the end and I put a binding on it. Let me see if I can show you that part. I went all the way. I actually did a little sleeve here because it's hanging in my store. So I hang it up on the store. But I went all the way to the end. And I didn't care what was beyond that, even if it went off the panel on the stabilizer. It doesn't matter because I cut it and added the binding. Okay, so let me go ahead and change it back. I hope I've answered everyone's questions. I've tried to read the questions as I went through this and make sure I had answered all your questions. But if I didn't answer your questions and you do have questions, I am going to type in my email address. So let me just do that real quick. Perfect. So there's my email address. So if you have any questions that I didn't answer, if you think of a question as you're doing your panel, email me and I'll be more than happy to reply back. All right, my friends, I think I've kept you guys here long enough. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this Friday morning or Friday afternoon, depending on your time zone. Thank you guys for all your sweet comments and your questions and just for kind of just watching with me. It's always fun to sew with friends and people who are interested in the topic, right? I guess that's all I have to say. Until next Friday. So next Friday, join me and I will do a design suite on the same panel that I was working on. So I will, Barbara's wanting me to do a design suite or talk about that, and I will grab a design suite and I will add, and I'll start from scratch. Like I'll take the stick, put it in the machine, we'll do it from step by step, and we'll do another panel, another petal. Okay. All right, my friends, I will talk to you guys then next Friday, or if you guys have any other questions, you can just reach out, okay? You guys take care, and if I don't see you next Friday, hopefully maybe I'll see you in a live class, a Zoom class soon, or if you're local, maybe I'll see you in the store. All right, you guys take care. Bye.